It's like dessert with you.
I saw that, Ari. Kiss the Sabbath bride. Shir Hamalot Beshuv Adonai Et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kechomim Az Yomru Vagoyim Higdil Adonai Asoti Melech Higdil Adonai Lasoti Manu Source of life, bring us back as you bring back water to the dried Negev streams. We who sow with our tears will reap with song. As the sowers cast their seeds, they feel like weeping, yet they go on trusting that they will come back. They will surely come back, singing when they bring in the harvest sheaves. source of life, bring us back as you bring back water to the dried Negev streams. We who sow with our tears will reap with song as the sowers cast their seeds. They feel like weeping, yet they go on trusting that they will come back. They will surely come back singing as we bring in the harvest sheaves. Well, greetings, my friends. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. If you have candles and you haven't lit them yet, you might want to pull out some candles. We did a little ritual earlier with the younger families, so I have some lit ones here, but lighting candles and rituals like this help ground us in a week that's had so much potential turbulence and unknown and sort of highs and lows. Simple act of putting match, creating flame, lighting candles. And may we see the light reflected in one another's eyes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. It's a tradition, right, to cover our eyes while we're saying the blessing and open our eyes and try to see the light as if it were there all along and yet suddenly appeared and became visible to us. Vayera, and it appeared. This week we are in the cycle of the story of Abraham, and he is sitting and meditating in the opening of his tent in the heat of the day, and Vayera, all of a sudden there appeared these messengers of peace, right, that we thought might never come, the good news, the blessings of healing, and the promise, the hope of progeny and a legacy to pass on. And so we light candles, and then we turn to one another and we offer blessings, and we welcome in messengers of blessing, intangible and those right in front of us. So take a moment to think about the blessings that you'd like to receive on this Shabbat. The voices, the presence. And on page 13 in the Siddur, if you have a Siddur, maybe you have this one memorized, I'll go through, but you can use this as a meditation. I'll do a melody you may not be as familiar with. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Bochem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we ask to be blessed. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now perhaps we have a blessing we'd like to offer to harness and channel and send out to all those who might be needing a prayer, a blessing of peace on this evening. Tzedchem l'shei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Take and receive a deep breath. Maybe a few. Sort of ground again in the body, in the chair, on this planet, spinning, easing day into night, and bringing us into a new week, or bringing closure to a very long week, an election week. Not necessarily bringing closure to the election yet, but bringing closure to the week. So there's in the traditional Kabbalat Shabbat service, the sages collected a series of psalms, 6 psalms from the book of Psalms, and offered them as meditations in preparation for greeting the Sabbath like a bride, like a queen. One named for each day of the week. 6 psalms for the 6 days of the week, culminating then in we sing Lecha Dodi and then offer a psalm for Shabbat. So it's worth, if you haven't done so already, it's been a full week, I'm sure, for many of you, and many of us staying up late, over all night maybe, watching election returns. Sort of the days have bled into each other. But maybe take a moment to sort of come back to last Saturday night or Sunday. This past week might seem like ages ago, and just maybe close your eyes and try to capture a moment from each of the days of this week. This past Saturday night had the opportunity to return for the first time to our home in Granby. So maybe there's a homecoming from this past week for you, and maybe there's a little bit of blessing to harvest from each day, from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, almost half a week before we started watching election results coming in. And maybe remember what emotions were carrying you each day and how they fluctuated, just to honor the full range of emotion that we felt this past week. Lechu neranana, we go out, we journey back through time and try to lift up the moments of connection, hope, and also the worry and the perhaps anger and anxiety. You can harvest something there too. Reflections of our deepest cares, concerns for ourselves and our planet, for our community, maybe our party and our nation. bringing us through Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, those days that seem to have melded into one another. And receiving the invitation on this night, on this Shabbat, to Shavat, to make Shabbat a verb, and to just pause, to let go. And to be with the breath, with the body. With the blessings of living in a democratic nation, of witnessing a year where we saw more people participate in the election than any time in history. And lift up the blessings of this week, of being in this place at this time, that we can celebrate with every citizen of the country, of the continent. Let's take that blessing, that intention to really help hold the joys, the celebrations, and the sorrows and disappointments of everyone on the country. Hold them in one container and integrate them like the strands of bread that are woven into a challah, like the two separate candles that by the end of Shabbat become integrated into one braided candle. And maybe we go back to a melody that comes from our American ancestors that preceded the pilgrims that came and brought a new nation to this ancestral nation. Lecha Dodi, page 41. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada dai dai dai, pnei Shabbat, nekabelai, ai lai lai. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada yada dai, pnei Shabbat, nekabelai. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada dai. Shabbat, nekabelai, ai lai lai. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada dai dai dai. Pnei Shabbat, nekabelai, dai dai. Shamu v'zachor, dibor echad, hishmianu el hamayuchad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada yada, pnei Shabbat, nekabelai, ai lai lai. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada pnei Shabbat, nekabelai. Next page. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor averacha, mirosh nikedem nesucha, sof maseh v'machshvat techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yada yada, pnei Shabbat, לקבלai, lai, lai, lechadodi likrat kala, yadadai, 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 leshabbat, לקבלai. Page 47. On the right and on the left, right? Coming together, both hands. We're all part of one body, whether we're on the political right or the political left. Yamin usmol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi. Yamin usmol taritzi ve'et Adonai taritzi. Aleadish ben patzi ve'nismecha ונגילה לך תודי לקראת ידה 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 לפני שבת שקבלai אלי לך תודי לקראת קלה ידה 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 לפני שבת לקבלai. All right, maybe you want to rise, stand up, and join me for the last verse. Think about what you would bow to. Oi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha utzola, toch emunei am segula, boi kala, boi kala. לחדוני לקראת קלה ידעי 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 בני שבת לקבלai אלי לחדוני לקראת קלה ידעי 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 בני שבת לקבלai לחדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת לקבלai לחדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת לקבלai לחדוני לקראת קלה ידעי ידעי בני שבת לקבלai לחדוני לקראת קלה ידעי 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 בני שבת לקבלai. And I want to thank you all for being here and joining, helping us reconnect after this crazy week. And thank you for those of you who have put just sort of naming your emotions and your experience this past week. Feel free to use that chat and offer what you like to share, and just to honor what each person shares without having to respond or react in any way other than with compassion. So these melodies, these rituals, and this cycle of time helps us to reconnect with one another, all welcoming Shabbat together at the same time. And when we gather on Shabbat, we usually do a service where we recite the Shema together, a sort of declaration of oneness. And as a prelude to that, we do this call to service, which is only done if we have a quorum, right? If we have 10 people to chant to. So this idea of calling out to one another and waiting for a response, and if you have the community there to respond, then you can continue, and then together, out loud, offer the words of the Shema to be a reminder. Listen, Israel, reminding one another. It's not a prayer that we say to God or some other forces in the universe, but one we we say and hear from one another. But first is this call to service that we call the Baruch Hu. And by participating in the election, both with our emotional investment and certainly with our vote, and perhaps many of you participated in other ways, helping organize or do phone banks or texting or putting out signs or wearing, buttons that represent, who you're voting for and what you stand for. All those kinds of engagements are forms of service that I think are to be celebrated, no matter who we're voting for or cheering for in terms of our elected officials and our policies. So invite us to think of the Baruch Hu as calling out to one another and celebrating the forms of service, the myriad forms of service that each of us have in some way mantled, shouldered in this process. And certainly to celebrate those who mobilized voters to come out, no matter what party they were voting for. May they feel as honored as the first responders that we hollered for and cheered for every night for months in Denver anyway, and in Colorado at 8 p.m. I think it was, right? About 8 p.m. So that's coming up now. So I invite you to rise and join me for the Baruch Hu, and invite you to unmute as well so we can hear your response. And I'm blanking on the page number, so I have to look it up. Page 57. As we bless the source of life, and we celebrate and acknowledge all those who engaged in our democratic process this past week and continue to do so, we honor them with the Baruch Hu and call them into this sacred community. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. And together, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Nice. On the next page, a blessing for the cycles of nature, of light and dark. Right? Some of us are seeing maybe transitions from darkness to light, and some are maybe experiencing from light to darkness, but it's part of the same cycle, and we bless the cycle itself with Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. With wisdom, the gates of heavens are opened and ordered, and they change and bring about seasonal change and bring coolness to Colorado and precipitation to help quell the wildfires. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. We find a way to bless the rolling back of light in the face of darkness, and the rolling back of shadow and darkness in the face of light and new hope. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. Ahavat Olam. Can we experience the love in the world and the universe, even in the midst of upheaval and transition and change and concerns. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael. So our tradition in this blessing, next blessing leading up to the Shema, is an invitation to experience the love of the universe through the capacity to learn. And so I pray for myself and for all the citizens of this country that we engage this, the tensions that we feel and the experience with curiosity, with the potential for really learning something about ourselves, one another, our neighbors, and that we pursue that curiosity and try to bridge the gaps that exist and maybe have been brought in stark terms during an election week as well. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Blessed are you who finds a way to love all those who struggle with truth and the divinity within me and within all. The Shema is on page 65. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kibod Nochto Le'olam Va'ed. Please join me. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. So each service we're invited to sing the song our ancestors sang when they crossed the Sea of Reeds and waded into the water that was so troubled and tumultuous. And in a couple weeks you get to hear Laura Berman, who I see on the Zoom call, sing this version of Mi Chamocha. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, 'cause the trouble in the water is godly too. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, 'cause the trouble in the water is godly too. See those people dressed up in blue, the trouble in the water is godly too. Well, you know they cast their vote and they're wading on through. Trouble in the water is godly too. And see those people dressed up in red. Trouble in the water is God lit too. You know they're also the people that Moses and Miriam led. The trouble in the water is God lit true. Come on and wade in the water. Come on and wade in the water, children, wade in the water. The trouble in the water is God lit too. See those people dressed up in black. The trouble in the water is God lit too. They come a long way and they ain't turning back. The trouble in the water is God lit too. Democracy is messy, but it's God lit too. Gonna wade in the water. Come on and wade in the water, children, wade in the water. The trouble in the water is God lit too. The trouble in the water is godly too. Oh, I forgot the words. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar bakodesh nora tehilot Nora tehilot oseh feleh. I think that's the song our ancestors sang when the last time they had a contested election. Pharaoh, Moses, Pharaoh, Moses. Which one do we vote for? Okay, you guys. Let's offer a blessing for healing before we open up for a conversation and invite some processing and sharing. I forgot my list of healing, but while I go grab that, maybe you can put the names of someone that you'd like to pray for healing, of course. And Laura, maybe would you sing a little bit for us when you unmute and sing Ana Elna or Amisha Berach for us while I get the list?
I think he thinks that I know more than I do. I could sing Ose Shalom.
So we offer. Oh, there she's ready. Yeah, go ahead and play, Laura, if you got it ready. So we pray and extend our support and love to those who are struggling with illness. Maureen Spiegelman, Ron Solomon, Deb Stellini, Susan Levin, Lawrence Fox, Ron Saltzman, Mike Glade, Elida Glade, Yehuda Benjamin, Susan Stearns, Ian Moore, Sandy Schneider, Linda Nikki Shaw, Eileen Saltzman, Judy Sherman, Angela Fitzgerald, Edward Cohen, Cameron Hopping, Linda Fogel, Betsy Appel, Terry Noonan, Madeline Snyderman, Karen Batayelet, Deborah Shibelhut, Sally Feeder, Jerry Olson, Kate Olson, Adam Jordani, Simon Martin, Elspeth Couch, Debbie, Catherine, Rosalind Fleshman. And as Karen says, so many who have been over 100,000 new cases, I think, in the world today. Laura, I can't hear you, but it looks like you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Should I just sing Osa Shalom?
Sounds like your sound is really soft, so maybe I'll lead us in the Misha Berach. Though thank you for grabbing your beautiful guitar. Sorry about that. Misha Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Amen. May we all find healing. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. What I was hoping to offer, tonight, no matter what the results of the election were, if we had results of the election, was just a space to come together as a community, knowing that we come from different political stripes and knowing that there would be some feelings of celebration and some who will be seeking consolation. And just to show that we could stand side by side with one another and offer the kind of support of recognizing that each of us have different responses and to the process and to the results. But invite those who would like to sort of share something about their experience and maybe start by naming something that was pleasantly surprising for you in your own experience, something you witnessed in your own experience this week, not necessarily naming what results triggered it, but your own experience that was pleasantly surprising. So I will name that I was pleasantly surprised that I waited up until 2 or 3 in the morning on November 3rd, and I was pleasantly surprised that when it was clear that maybe there wasn't going to be much new information that came in until the following morning, I was able to sleep 3 or 4 hours, nice and soundly. Who knew? I must have been pretty tired. But that was a nice, pleasant surprise that I was able to set aside the, anticipation, both anxiety and excitement, and wake up, wondering with a sort of open mind, curiosity, what would transpire. I also want to acknowledge that this is hard. Yeah, Lori, this is hard to do, especially with more than a few people, especially on Zoom. So if you'd feel more comfortable putting your thoughts or reactions in a chat, feel free to do that. Yes, Lori.
So I was pleasantly surprised by the high voter turnout. I think it's incredibly important that we all vote. And I was also pleasantly surprised by the commitment from both sides of the spectrum to count the votes. the ballots that were turned in on time.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I was happy today. They showed and interviewed someone who was in line to vote in Nevada, in Las Vegas. There's something happened where they notified people and they only had a certain amount of time to come down in person to vote. But this gentleman was in such a jovial mood. And he basically said, I've met all these new friends. We all came down here. We're all in line together and we're having to do this crazy thing. And nobody asked anybody who they were voting for. And people are sharing things. And it's a great experience. So that was really nice to see.
Beautiful. Thank you. I hadn't heard that. Yeah.
So if I could share, I've been laughing a lot more than I thought this week, mostly because of my generation and the meme quality that has been coming out onto the internet, especially memes revolving around Nevada, and the slow counting process there. So I've actually had a lot of laughter in the midst of everything else.
So the vote count in Nevada is a little bit like a crapshoot, you know? No, not good. Wouldn't make the meme cut, probably. Thank you, Luke.
It was good, Rabbi.
Yeah, it is good. I didn't register at first.
Okay. Thank you, Anne.
I was pleasantly surprised to realize I was going to live one way or the other.
Yeah.
Not happily, but
You would live.
but I would live.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
I've been
Go ahead,
pleasantly
Terry.
surprised. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I've been pleasantly surprised that I've been getting texts from my kids throughout the week with knowing that they're engaged in this and watching and excited and or angry or happy. And so just when I think everybody's sort of done with it, I get a really cool text. It's fun.
Nice. Thank you. Ellen.
To piggyback on what Tara said, I've been thrilled with the amount of enthusiasm from the youth and the numbers of young people who are registered, who have gotten other people registered, who have been taking over for the people who typically run the polls and are in the high risk category. And so the youth have taken on a huge responsibility, and that's really exciting.
Thank you. Nice. Sally, would you like to?
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised that 30% of Jews voted for Trump.
Uh-huh.
We can count on you, Sally.
Thank you. I'm surprised it wasn't more, but 30%, I thought that was interesting.
Okay. Nice.
Do I mute myself back? Yes.
Sure.
Well, I mean, is that what you're supposed to do?
Yes, I think so. Just to make sure that ambient noise in your space doesn't make it harder for people to hear others.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Something from this past week that they'd like to share? Yeah.
I was so thrilled at how quickly all of the ads disappeared. All the political ads disappeared within minutes. That was great.
Nice. Yes, maybe our mailboxes will be less crowded with, political flyers, and our screens will be less cramped with political ads.
And our phones, oh my gosh, the next day it was like, oh, so quiet, so nice. And now it's just credit card people again.
Yeah. Yes, Lori.
So I'm going to share something Elizabeth posted from Nancy on Facebook. I am pleasantly surprised that there hasn't been a whole lot of violence in the cities, or I have missed learning of it as I'm not listening to that much news.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Well, thanks, and hello everybody on Facebook. Very nice. Anyone else would like to sort of name something, and maybe we can shift to name a few hopes coming out of the elections, sort of things you're hoping to see and wanting to work towards or help build as we move forward. Certainly, yeah, Diane.
I hope there's no violence in the streets in the next several days. I hope and pray that whatever happens, that people deal with it in a civil manner, and that nobody gets hurt.
Indeed. Karen, yeah.
This week I was painting my fence while a young man was fixing my gutters. And he was from the Hispanic community, and he said that he wasn't going to vote because he didn't think it would that anybody cared, or that it would make any difference in his life. And I said, well, it's not just the presidential race. There's a lot of local things that you might find important to vote on. And I brought out my blue book and I was reading them to him, and at the end he said, I think I will go and do a little bit of voting, that maybe some of these things are important to me.
Lovely. Very nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these in the Parsha this week, after the incident that I mentioned earlier, after we lit candles of Abraham welcoming the messengers, the angels, and receiving their blessing, the third messenger is according to Midrash, the one who lets Abraham know that God is about to destroy the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, that their wickedness has grown to beyond repair, right? Point of no return. And there's nothing left to do but to just wipe them out, right? Fire and brimstone. And then the messenger says, well, maybe I should tell Abraham about that and see what he has to say about that, right? And then there's this famous, interaction between God, or the messenger, the angel, and Abraham. where Abraham gets indignant at God and says, wait a minute, when if there's righteous people? When if there's innocent people in those cities? You're going to destroy the innocent along with the guilty? Would not the God of justice do what is just? Right? And this sort of voice of protest against God, the chutzpah that is put forth. And well, God says, okay, well, maybe if there's, some innocent people, well, what if there's 50 innocent people in the city, or 50 righteous people? And then God says, okay, if there's 50 righteous people, well, I won't destroy the city. And Abraham says, well, how about 40? And God says, okay, if there's 40, and Abraham keeps bargaining him down, right? Getting him down. How about 20? How about 15? How about 10? And God says, okay, if there's 10 righteous people in the city, then I won't destroy it, but don't push your luck. So it stops at 10. Unfortunately, there aren't a full quorum of minyan of people that that stand up for the rights and are kind to strangers, like Abraham and Sarah modeled. Other than Lot, Abraham's nephew, and his family. But this interaction between, is one of the aspects or qualities of Abraham that is often overlooked, I think, in terms of the quality of our ancestor, this ideal that's set forth of someone who is really, willing to speak out against injustice and whether it's disenfranchised voters, right? Or people who are suffering injustice and being innocently punished or punished for no good reason, whether incarceration or etc. And Abraham's standing up for them and doesn't always work. He doesn't end up saving the people, but the model of voicing one's protest and concern, on wherever you are on the political spectrum, whether it's something that our Torah honors and celebrates and holds as a quality of character that that we are elected to take on, right? That Abraham is chosen, is elected for this mission to pronounce and sort of provide a model for justice and equity and standing up for the innocent. And that becomes exemplary of exactly the role for which Abraham and his descendants, Abraham and Sarah and their descendants, were elected, were chosen. And I think this American experiment is an extension of that work as well, and that's a place where Jewish and American civilization, I think, can overlap quite nicely. Any other reflections or comments that anyone wanted to add before we offer a melody and then Kaddish? All right. Well, thank you. I am proud to be a part of a community that can come together and honor Shabbat and see a sort of joint mission that transcends political differences and looks to honor the ideals that we all share. Let's sing Oseh Shalom Bimramav. Oseh Shalom Bimramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel. Okay, I'll offer some names for Kaddish. You know what? Before we do Kaddish, let's just do the refrain. Einod, 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 Einod. It is written that on that day we long for, that the one, the nameless one, and the name of the one will be one. B'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. That the reality and the language that we use and the words that we use, the names that we choose will be an accurate reflection and reminder of the one. Einod, 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 Einod. So this Shabbat we extend condolences to the families who've had recent losses. Bruce Brown's mother, Marilyn Brown, Susan Lehman's brother, Stuart Fox, Lauren Grossman's mother, Gertrude Goldberg, our friend and former member Hal Gluscotter, Jill Wildenberg's mother, Marcia Kessler, Eric Shaw's father, Charlie Shaw, Judy Regensteiner's mother, Dorothy, Sandy Schneider's cousin, Arnold. And the art sites that I'm aware of for this week, Hyman Larner, Marilyn Raff, Robert Court, and William Kramer. Other names to include for Kaddish? Ron Fragan. Thank you, Sally. And Bob Fleischman. Thank you, Lori. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. And Bill Bennett. Yes, thank you, Karen. And the mourners Kaddish, if you'd like to rise and join me for that, we'll do that together. Page 131. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah v'yomad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayichon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lomei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha, brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al yoshvei tevel. V'imru. Amen. Thank you, Elizabeth, for helping with the screen sharing. Thank you all. Eve, do you have any announcements you want to share before we tune out?
I do. I have a couple of things. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
It was closer. So I just have a couple of announcements for some upcoming events at CBE. And first of all, I want to thank Jay Kramer, who's not on, but he is responsible for having CBE partner with the Melton School. And we are going to partner with them it's a 5-part live Zoom course called 2 Centuries of Modern Anti-Semitism. The course begins next Wednesday, November 11th at 11 a.m. And there'll be details on how to register on our news blast that comes out on Monday. And there was also an email last week that came out about it. So hopefully you saw that. This coming Thursday, we have Adult Hebrew with Mindy Nitkin at 7 p.m. And Friday, Elizabeth is leading the Hiking Chavurah. It starts at 9 a.m. at Red Rocks, and that will also be posted in the news blast. Next Saturday, looking ahead, we have Family Shabbat and Gan, both virtual and in person, at least right now. We'll see what happens with the COVID rules coming up. And Friday the 20th, mark your calendar for the Blues Shabbat, and that is going to start at 6 a.m. 6 p.m. A little earlier than normal, and that will also be hopefully in person and virtual. That's what I have. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Eve. Thank you. And I mentioned earlier that we're doing the Blues Shabbat on the 20th. So a couple of musicians on the screen are helping. Ari Gould there in the green is playing percussion for us, and Laura's going to do her fabulous distance musical contribution. And we're partnering with a Reconstructionist Chavurah in Washington, D.C. Called Hill Chavurah. So they're right on Capitol Hill, and their rabbi is going to do a song, and a congregant, a member of their Chavurah, is going to do a song or two as well. So we'll have 3 of the 4 time zones covered, and a whole array of blues music set to the Jewish liturgy. So that's a new service, and that's also a thank you to Jay Kramer, who has been organizing these adult ed programs, who said, hey, when are you going to do a blues Shabbat? And so, I figured if I had to be evacuated from my house, I might as well do some blues music. So it's been working hard, and more. Tara is going to sing as well for the blues service as well. So I hope you will join us for that, and that should be a fun gathering from across the continent, and sharing some music together. Well, have an easy and restful Shabbat. I encourage you to take a hafsakah, a little Shabbat from the news network of choice that you have been using to watch updates on the elections. Maybe, give yourself a little break from that, and tune into one another and to the blessings of good food, good drink, and maybe a good night's sleep. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and we will catch you soon, hopefully next week, and thank you for being part of this service. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey.